The National Football League has a pretty big secret at the moment on how to draft a star wide receiver, and it's honestly not too hard. You just draft whoever is coming out of the University of Louisiana State. I spent a few hours going over every single wide receiver drafted from LSU in the past 10 years, and to compare the data and really see the significance of it, I went ahead and looked at some other schools that are popularly associated with the wide receiver position, schools like Alabama, Clemson, USC, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. And what I actually found, I think, is fairly staggering and really what every NFL GM should take in consideration from here on out when they're drafting a wide receiver. Now, as I stated earlier, all of this data is coming from 2014, so 10 years ago. That is the first draft and on that I'm using. And here is a graph that visualizes the last 10 drafts for these schools and the amount of wide receivers that they had drafted. LSU had 13 receivers picked in all 7 rounds. Alabama had 11, Clemson had 10, USC had 9, Notre Dame had 6, and Ohio State had 13 as well. But I'm somebody who prefers quality over quantity, and so the number of receivers isn't truly representative of how good these players actually were in the NFL. And so I took it a step further and really used my judgment to determine if a player in the NFL was a star or close to a star. And I used some simple standards like they had to have had at least 2 1,000-yard seasons or more if they've been a long-time vet in the league to be considered a star. But if you're a rookie or a younger player like Brian Thomas Jr. or Jackson Smith-Njigba, I still counted young wide receivers in that mold as stars and hits because we can see the potential and kind of project what they're going to be if they don't suffer a severe injury that like derails their career. So seeing the star hit rate for all of these schools, Notre Dame came in last with a 0%. They are 0 for 6. TJ Jones, Will Fuller, Economia St. Brown, Miles Boykin, Chase Claypool, and Ben Skoranek were their 6 players. And Clemson came up next. I had them 2 for 10 with 2 star wide receivers drafted, Mike Williams and T. Higgins. On their list, they also had Martavius Bryant, Sammy Watkins, Jerome Peak, Ray McLeod, Deion Kane, Hunter Renfrow, Cornell Powell, and Amari Rogers. And coming in at number 4 for these schools, I had USC, which was 4 of 9. The hits I listed were Michael Pittman Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, and Jordan Addison. The other wide receivers drafted were Marquise Lee, Nelson Aguilar, Juju Smith-Schuster, Taj Washington, and Brendan Rice. And at number 3, I had the University of Alabama, which was 5 for 11. I feel like they are probably the most subjective school that I did do the research for because there's a lot of fringe players, I would say. The ones I gave the nod to were Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Jamison Williams. I went back and forth on Jamu. I mean, he just had such a weird start to his career with like a couple of suspensions, his ACL injury when he entered the league. But I do feel like if he just stays on the field, he will become one of the best receivers in the sport. The ones I did not list were Kevin Norwood, Ardarius Stort, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, John Mechie, and Jermaine Burton. Jerry Jeudy, a former first-round pick, he has not had a season over 1,000 yards receiving, so I don't really think he fits the criteria. But Calvin Ridley was another guy that I debated if I should have counted or not. He's had a couple of really good seasons, but the totality of his career has been really weird as well, so I don't really know, but I just gave him the benefit of the doubt. But now at number 2, we have Ohio State, and I had them 6 for 13. Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Marvin Harrison Jr. The ones that did not hit were Evan Spencer, Devin Smith, Braxton Miller, Noah Brown, Curtis Samuel, Paris Campbell, and KJ Hill. And at number 1, tied with the same rate of OSU, is LSU, which was 6 of 13. Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., and Malik Neighbors. The reason I gave the nod to LSU was just the rate of the premium picks. Premium selections are the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, and Ohio State was 6 for 10, with Paris Campbell, Curtis Samuel, Braxton Miller, and Devin Smith not panning out. Whereas for LSU, they were 6 of 8 with their premium picks, with Terrence Marshall Jr. and DJ Chark being the lone 2 that did not really break out into becoming an NFL star. And what I really think has helped LSU become a factory for wide receivers in the last decade or so, I think has to do with that duo of Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. back in 2014. I think even what Odell did in the NFL, just becoming one of the most popular players early in his career due to that one-handed catch, really just had a ton of young high school prospects wanting to go to LSU and be like Odell. And now you look up in the NFL, and I think the two best wide receivers are from LSU, and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Jefferson is having arguably the best start to a career for any wide receiver to ever play the sport. In his first 5 years of his career, he is going to have over 1,000 yards in every single season, and that includes his 2023 campaign, where he only played in 10 games due to a hamstring injury, and he still found himself over 1,000 yards, which is just unbelievable. And this year, with only 10 games played, he's at 900 yards, so I think he's going to soar over 1,000 once again. He's already got an 1,800 yard season. He has a 1,600 yard season. I mean, the dude is just absolutely incredible. He's got the size, he's got the speed, the athleticism. His route running is ridiculous. You can make an argument he's the best route runner in the league. His hands are fantastic. When do you ever see Jefferson drop just a point-blank pass? I mean, he makes some of the nastiest contested catches week in and week out that you'll ever see in the league. I mean, he's just a bona fide Hall of Fame player, and if he does stay healthy, he's going to end up having one of the most yardage for any player to ever play in the league. Jefferson is by far running away with the most receiving yards for a wide receiver in his first 5 seasons. I don't know if he's going to have the longevity of Jerry Rice to really capture his record, but man, I think Jedez is going to get pretty darn close to that. And now Jamar Chase this season is on pace to have his best season by a pretty wide margin as well. But again, in his first 4 seasons, he's had over 1,000 yards in every single year, a 1,400 yard season and 13 touchdowns as a rookie. And this season, he is currently projected to end with 1,600 yards and 19 touchdowns. And I would actually make the argument that Chase is not too far behind Jefferson. And actually, I would hear arguments for Chase to be even better than Jedez. I would say the biggest difference between the two is just their play styles. You obviously have more size with Jefferson, so you have more jump balls, contested catches. But what Jamar Chase has is just unbelievable yards after the catch ability. I mean, the amount of times that we've seen him take a screen pass, like 80 yards to the house while he's breaking 5-6 tackles, is unheard of. So I think Chase comes with just a little bit more speed and yards after catch ability, but ultimately you're kind of splitting hairs because both of these guys are Hall of Fame players and they're both just so damn good. But even the two new LSU wide receivers that just got drafted just a few months ago, I think they're going to become top 10 wide receivers as well, maybe even better than that. Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. It's kind of interesting because I feel like they kind of mirror like the play styles of Chase and Jefferson. Neighbors is the slightly smaller player, but he's more explosive, just yards after the catch, being a deep threat down the field. He reminds me of like an Odell Beckham Jr. / Jamar Chase clone a lot. Neighbors is projected to go over 100 catches, 1,000 yards, and have 5 touchdowns this year. And that's probably with some of the worst quarterback play in the league. I cannot wait to see who the Giants get to be their next quarterback, because that's when I think we're really going to see Neighbors break out and becoming one of the best receivers in the league. And Brian Thomas Jr., his game is more similar to like Justin Jefferson. He's taller than Jefferson. He's 6'4", 200 pounds, but his game is very fluid. He's a great route runner. He can make some tough contested catches in the middle of the field. And he is also projected to end the year with over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. And he was absolutely cooking when Trevor Lawrence was in the lineup. But with Mac Jones starting and the Jaguar season just completely spiraling, I don't even think we're getting the full potential of what Brian Thomas Jr. can be either. But I'm fairly confident in saying that he's going to end up being a fantastic wideout as well. And LSU is going to have 2 more receivers that I think could end up being maybe top 7 wide receivers in the entire National Football League. Now, in terms of prospects currently for LSU that could be drafted highly in the draft, I think you got to look at Kyron Lacy. He's a 5th-year player this year. He played his first 2 years at Louisiana before transferring to LSU, playing behind Neighbors and Thomas Jr. for the first couple of years. But he's had a bigger role this year, and he's really been one of the bright spots of LSU's offense. He's got 49 catches for 740 yards and 7 touchdowns. I don't think he's as talented as the guys I've been talking about in this video, so he's probably going to be like a 2nd-round pick, maybe a 3rd-rounder. But if you just watch him play, I do think he's another guy that can be a very functional and really good wide receiver at the next level. Maybe he doesn't reach the NFL stardom of a lot of the recent LSU wide receivers to enter the league, but in terms of just having a chance to get a very good wide receiver from a program that you know develops them very, very nicely, I think NFL GMs would be very dumb to not entertain taking Kyron Lacy, because if you look at the data, Lacy has a 75% chance to emerge as a really, really good player. But now when you're in arguments about who wide receiver university is, at the barbershop, at school, amongst friends, you can tell them confidently it's Louisiana State University, and we really haven't seen a run like this in some time.